Good evening and welcome to a special program. I'm coming to you today from RS Pura, a short distance away from Jammu, to give you a full and comprehensive picture on what the situation is as far as cross-border firing is concerned. Already I can tell you in just the last 1 hour or so, less than that, firing has started once again in parts of the RS Pura sector. In fact, we'll be showing you stories from that area of the place a few hours back, but again, and this is the worst nightmare of villagers over there, firing has started. Now, where exactly am I? If you can see behind me, a lot of people seated over here. These are villagers from the RS Pura area and some other areas who have come to this particular school, which is now their home at night. During the daytime, many of them choose to go back to their villages to try and tend to their poultry, to their farms. But it's dangerous now to go back to their villages, which is why they are here. Before we get to several reactions at various levels, political reactions and a debate with guests also from Pakistan, let me give you an idea of what's happening on the ground. Joining me, Jaswant Singh and Ranjit Singh. Jaswant Singh ji is a sarpanch in this area. Jaswant Singh ji, ये बताइए आप कहाँ के सरपंच हो, वहाँ स्थिति क्या है?
मैं फ्लोरा पंचायत का सरपंच हूँ सर। वहाँ की स्थिति ये है कि रात होते ही फायर शुरू हो जाता है, सुबह 8 बजे तक फायर रहता है। जो आप मेरे पीछे देख रहे हैं, ये सब लोग हमारे गांव से आए हैं माइग्रेट होकर के, तो बहुत फायर चलता है। हमारे गांव के 3 लोग कैजुअल्टी हुए हैं, कुछ जानवरों का नुकसान हुआ है, कुछ मकानों का नुकसान हुआ है। जब फायरिंग आती है, शीशे वगैरह खिड़कियां लोगों के टूट गए हैं, तो लोग काफी दहशत में हैं, लोग सो नहीं पाते हैं। अब ये सब लोग किसान हैं, किसान के ऊपर ही डिपेंड करते हैं। ये लोग पशु रखे हुए हैं, पशुओं का दूध भी निकालना होता है। एक आदमी को गाँव में रह जाता है, वो छुपता रहता है रात को, और बाकी जो है रात को सब इधर आ जाते हैं। गाँव वाले रात को इधर रहते हैं। प्रशासन ने यहाँ बंदोबस्त कर रखा है, टेंट लगा रखे हैं, और स्कूल है, ये हाई स्कूल है, गवर्नमेंट हाई स्कूल है। यहाँ पर जो जनरेटर वगैरह का बंदोबस्त कर रखा है सरकार ने।
अच्छा, आप एक चीज बताइए, यहाँ कितने लोग हैं?
सर, सीज फायर जो वायलेशन है, इट इज अ ग्रेट कंसर्न फॉर आवर कंट्री। सो वी आर सफरिंग फ्रॉम दिस वायलेशन टाइम एंड अगेन। इन लोगों के लिए जो पॉलिसी सरकार ने, स्टेट और सेंट्रल सरकार ने मिलकर कोऑर्डिनेशन कमेटी बनानी चाहिए, और इन लोगों के लिए
वो हम सब देखेंगे। सिर्फ आप मुझे ये बताइए कि यहाँ स्कूल में कितने लोग आते हैं रात को?
स्कूल में इस वक्त कम से कम 2000 के करीब लोग होंगे, जो डिफरेंट पंचायत और विलेजेस से आए हुए हैं।
अच्छा, और काफी लोग यहाँ काफी लोग आए हुए हैं, पर वहाँ गांव में भी काफी लोग हैं जो वहाँ रहते हैं रात को, तो उनका कंडीशन क्या है?
जनाब, जो लोग गांव में इस वक्त वो दहशत के माहौल में हैं, उस वक्त बड़ी मुश्किल में जी रहे हैं, और कुछ लोग जो हैं बंकर्स में हैं, कुछ अपने घरों में ही सेफर प्लेस लेकर शेल्टर लेकर बैठे हुए हैं। पर्टिकुलरली जो इनके पशु वगैरह हैं, जो एनिमल्स हैं, उनको भी बहुत ज्यादा नुकसान हो रहा है, और इस नुकसान का जो मुआवजा है वो जेन्युइन मुआवजा लोगों को मिलना चाहिए। ये मेरी दरख्वास्त स्टेट व सेंट्रल सरकार को है।
Okay, well, a couple of voices over there. The bottom line is that the situation very close to where I am now is quite precarious. Firing has started, and for people who live in the border areas, and let me be very clear by what I mean by border areas. These are villages which in many instances are 100 meters from the fence which marks the border between India and Pakistan. These are the villages which are being hit. These are the villages where many people, men, tend to remain at night because they're afraid that thieves might come in and take away their belongings. These are the villages where little children have to go back to their homes during the daytime. This is the situation in many of these areas, and I'm not talking just about RS Pura, I'm talking about the Aktur area, the Samba area, so many parts where shelling continues, and it's happening once again this evening. But at another level, and this is a micro level look at the situation, at another level, there are politics being played out at all levels. Politics between India and Pakistan, politics between the BJP and the Congress party as well. Let's take a quick look at some of the political reactions coming in on this story.
सीमा पर तैनात जवानों को निराश करने वाली भाषा मत बोलिए। ये मातृभूमि की सेवा के लिए जी जान से लड़ रहे हैं, और आप राजनीतिक छिटाकसी कर रहे हो। सरकारें आती हैं, जाती हैं, बनती है, बिगड़ती है, चुनाव आएंगे, जाएंगे, लेकिन मां भारती के लिए मरने मिटने के लिए तैनात जवान, उनको निराश करने वाली बातें कभी मत बोला करो।
जितनी फायरिंग पिछले 2-3 दिन में हुई है, 10 साल में नहीं हुई, हमारे पूरे यूपीए के राज में नहीं हुई।
Pakistan in these attacks has clearly been the aggressor. If Pakistan persists with this adventurism, our forces will make the cost of this adventurism unaffordable.
कि दोस्त जो है हम चुन सकते हैं और बदल भी सकते हैं, लेकिन पड़ोसी न चुने जाते हैं न बदले जाते हैं। अब मरकज की हुकूमत और पार वाले इन बंदूकों को कितनी जल्दी खामोश कर पाएंगे और किस तरह खामोश कर पाएंगे, ये फैसला उनको करना होगा।
Well, a couple of political reactions over there. Well, over the last couple of days, we've been trying to bring you every aspect of this story, the ground reports, the political stories, the stories of people who are suffering the most, and what this means in terms of a very real military conflict between India and Pakistan. My colleague Sudhir Ranjan Sen has been traveling extensively in this region. He joins us now. Sudhir Ranjan, at some stage during the day, we lost touch with each other. In fact, this is the first time that I'm speaking to you all of today. Where are you now? What is the situation around you, the immediate situation? Sudhir Ranjan, can you hear me? All right, I don't think we've got Sudhir Ranjan Sen there. We'll try and get back to him in a little while from now. But let me describe to you what I saw earlier on in the day. These villages, and you know, it's a pastoral setting, a beautiful setting during the daytime. But come night time, it's hell on earth. Take a look. This is the fence across which India and Pakistan have been waging their most intense cross-border duels since the ceasefire of 2003. Here in the RS Pura sector, everything looks ordinary now. But one thing's clear, this is a lull in the storm. In just a few hours, in the evening, this pretty pastoral setting will become a living hell. This farmer shows us why. This is as close to the international border as we can get. That's the fence between India and Pakistan. This is one of the hottest areas where the Pakistanis have opened up with mortar shelling and with machine gun fire, and India has been responding as well. At the moment, it's relatively safe. The key word here, relatively, that's because over the last couple of hours there has been no shelling from across the border. Few more villagers who had gone back have chosen to come back and are now tending to their poultry and in their fields. But come 5:30 p.m. or 6 p.m, these villagers tend to move out, and they're told by the BSF, which mans the border over here, leave this area now. Firing will commence, and sure enough, that's when all hell breaks loose over here. A short distance away, in a small village, we see the damage of the overnight shelling firsthand. A home ripped apart by machine gun fire, window pane shattered, a Pakistani mortar just lying there. A BSF constable from a nearby post has heard of the damage to this home. He pays a visit, but he knows all too well that in just a few hours, this place will return to becoming a war zone.
सुबह देख पाएंगे नहीं देख पाएंगे तो यही सोच रहे थे कि परमात्मा के आगे फरियाद कर रहे थे कि परमात्मा।
पर आप यहाँ क्यों रहे? आप पीछे क्यों नहीं गए?
पीछे हमारा सब सामान है, हमारे पास पशु है जो हमारी जिंदगी से भी ज्यादा कीमती है।
बहुत डर लग रहा है, मकान ऐसे कमरे है तो डर नहीं लग रहा है, डर बहुत है। तो करना क्या है, रात को कहाँ जाना है? चले इतना फैर चारों तरफ फैर आ रहा है, कोई रास्ता ही नहीं लंघने जगह जाना का।
A short distance away, a trolley. Its metallic undercarriage pierced by fire from a Pakistani heavy machine gun.
नुकसान आप देख रहे हो, इधर भी पड़ा हुआ था, वो क्या ना ब्लास्ट हुआ था, इधर नुकसान हुआ था, तो आगे भी देखो साइड पे एक हमारे मामू ही रहते हैं, उनके घर भी बहुत नुकसान हुआ।
And let me give you further evidence of what comes across the border. These are the remnants of mortar shells, and these are bullets from automatic weapons fired from Pakistani forces. So if there was ever an argument that Pakistan wasn't targeting civilian areas, well then this clearly disproves that theory entirely. This is Arnia, 40 kilometers away from Jammu. 5 people had been killed here on Monday. This is Arnia today. If there were some signs of people in parts of the RS Pura sector, here in Arnia the situation is very different. This is a larger town. It appears to be a ghost town. There are almost no people over here. But let's take a look at this sign, and this I think really tells the story. The branch will function from another branch till the situation gets normal. Everything is shut down. The only shop that we found functioning was a small pharmacy. Finally, we see some traffic on the road. In fact, these are farmers carrying their cattle out of Arnia. They feel it's just a matter of time before a Pakistani shell strikes them.
इधर क्या है, सेलिंग की वजह से पूरे जानवर पर सब मर रहे हैं, आदमी मर रहे हैं, क्या पता कहाँ बम गिरेगा। तो उसकी वजह से कम जानवर तो बच सकते हैं।
सर इधर गोली का बहुत
कुछ नुकसान हुआ है इस इलाके में?
सर जिसके घर
Two of the people who lived here are in hospital after a shell landed on this home. The sound of the explosion was apparently so intense that one of them still can't hear properly. As night approaches, people across the border region are bracing themselves for another attack. They also know that India's withering counter-attack will be intense. In RS Pura and the Arnia sector, with Ajmal Jami, Vishnu Shom for NDTV. Well, joining us now to look just where this conflict, this crisis is headed, I'm joined by General VP Malik, the former Chief of Army Staff, Nalin Kohli, the spokesperson of the BJP, from Islamabad, Air Vice Marshal Shehzad Chaudhry, a strategic affairs expert, the Congress spokesperson Mr. Rashmi Kant, also with us, and the security expert Sushant Sareen. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. Air Vice Marshal Shehzad Chaudhry, let me come to you first. Sir, I'm just about 15 minutes drive from the border between India and Pakistan in RS Pura. In just the last half an hour, Pakistani forces have again opened up with machine gun fire. When is this going to end, sir? When will Pakistan end this provocation?
Yeah, if you listen to Prime Minister Modi, he made a statement, I think just yesterday, whereby he said this should finish in a day or two. I don't know what is the basis of his assertion, but how it seems to me at this moment is that both sides will try and quieten each other down by using more and more firepower. How it all started is quite interesting, and the fact is that any LOC exchanges have been restricted to the line of control. This is the first time that things have happened in the working boundary area. This is an international border from Pakistani perspective, a settled Sialkot region, Shakargarh area, Suchitgarh area, and there is absolutely no reason why Pakistan would fire across its own international border. It's just like opening fire out of Lahore into Amritsar or something like that.
Air Marshal, just a minute. Air Marshal Chaudhry with Air Marshal Chaudhry with nothing but the utmost of respect, sir, for you to say that Pakistan would not fire across its border, sir. Perhaps you are not aware of the facts on the ground. I was in this area, as were many journalists. We were picking up mortars, sir, and we were picking up machine gun shells. So therefore, sir, to assume that Pakistan isn't firing across is not correct, sir. And with all due respect, sir, factually it's just not correct.
That's not the point. No, Vishnu, that's not the point that I was making. I said, I don't know who started this, because Pakistan could not have or would not have started this across its own border. So somebody started it in the Jammu area. And why Jammu area? If you want infiltrations to be done, this is no area. This is plain level fields. You are standing in that area. You know the area very well. There's agricultural land across. It's like dead turkey shoot for anybody sitting on the fence from the Indian side. Why would they knock off 13, 14 villages? I think India has to have started this. India has to have started this for the reason which are unfathomable at this moment. But obviously Pakistan, if at all,
sir, it seems quite unfathomable, sir. I would agree with you. But let me get Nalin Kohli, the spokesperson of the BJP, to respond to you, sir. Because Nalin, the point being made by Air Marshal Shehzad Chaudhry is that, look, there is no reason for Pakistani provocation, that India is what provoked this incident. How do you respond?
Well, I think, I look at it from a political perspective, not a tactical perspective. And we've got General Saab also there. He might be able to add more value on that perspective. Let's go one by one. Why do we need to look at any kind of tension on the border? There are no elections being fought there. It causes inconvenience to people. The state of Jammu and Kashmir has just gone through a lot of floods. And we've seen that kind of damage it's done on both sides of the border. The elections are being fought in Maharashtra and Haryana. So therefore, there's just no link in a political perspective. How does that help us when we are not talking with them, when we get to the foreign secretary? Let me finish my point, please. Just let me finish. Let me just finish my point.
One moment, Nalin. I know you're making an important point, but if a Pakistani commentator, a senior person, says that India has started this, how do you respond to that statement? And we have time to discuss what you're saying, but my question is specific.
Deja vu. Deja vu. As simple as that. Deja vu. Because this has been the story as long as I've been in politics, and before that in the media, I've heard the same thing always. I think the important comment which politically our party and the government has sent out is that every time it may start at will from the other side, it ends at will from the other side. That doesn't seem to be the case happening now. That if there is going to be adventurism, for whatever be those reasons, domestic, international, anything, there will be a price to it. And therefore, at the end of the day, this can't either be a situation to say force infiltration in other areas. The expansion may have taken for tactical reasons. I can't comment. I'm neither qualified nor an expert. The other point is that in terms of what Mr. Jaitley said today, and that was important, there are reports of terrorists dying. So it could have been to cover up. It's been actually tension has been created for no reason. There was no reason for it. At least there's no domestic reason here, international reason here at India. So just people pick up a gun and start firing like that. India doesn't have a history. In a mature democracy, certainly not.
Okay. Well, Mr. Rashmikant of the Congress party, so I'm told that Rahul Gandhi today said that never during the term of the UPA were there so many incidents of crossfire, border firing or shelling. But in fact, sir, if you look at the statistics, in 2013, there were more than 96 incidents when India feels that Pakistan violated the ceasefire. So what is the point of Rahul Gandhi making or scoring political points? What would the UPA have done any differently?
Vishnu, you've taken one figure given by Mr. Rahul Gandhi of an incident that took place in October of 2013. But if you look from 2005 to 2012, on 4 basic parameters of incident, security forces killed, civilians killed and terrorists killed, there's been a 90%, 90% decline, except in 2013 where there was a 4.53% increase of the security forces dying. Otherwise, there's been a 90% decrease. Having said that, let me come to the fundamental point that you asked Mr. Nalin Kohli earlier. And to respond to what the Air Vice Marshal said, that why would Pakistan do it? There are 2 immediate points why Pakistan would do it. One is to send a signal to India and to the rest of the world that the civilian government has ceded all its power vis-a-vis its policy towards India, to the armed forces. And if India has to talk to somebody, they have to talk to the armed forces and not to the civilian government. That's point number 1. Point number 2, of course, is that essentially it is a repeat of what we have been seeing in the last 30 years, that except or the last 60 years, that except once where Pakistan has had a fully a democratic government lasting its full term of 5 years, Pakistan has never had democracy earlier. So this is
I just wanted Nalin to respond to, before I go across to my other panelists, I wanted Nalin to respond to one point. And Nalin, the Congress reiterating the fact that never in the history of the UPA government, I assume UPA 1 and UPA 2, have there been so many incidents of cross-border incidents. They say that the Modi government has not done enough. How do you respond to that?
Well, coming from a government that was comatose for a decade, that's a fascinating comment. In any case, what Mr. Gandhi says, one has to always note, if he's not sleeping in parliament or traveling overseas or calling the Prime Minister the leader of opposition, so his facts can get muddled up. It's ill-informed. With regard to the question about the government not doing enough, I don't recall the government cancelling talks on an issue. I don't recall a government forcefully giving a free hand to the armed forces. I don't recall a government clearly sending a message that if there has to be a response, it will be adequate, it's going to be more than adequate, diplomatically also as well as militarily. So if a government is there to protect its citizens and its territory in an absolutely, as from a national perspective, what more do you want? We at this time, we repose our faith in our armed forces, and I think the message is getting across.
Rashmikant disagrees.
Very quickly,
Mr. Rashmikant, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, very quickly, I'd like to say that Nalin has not actually responded to the point that I raised. The point that I raised was that in these 4 parameters, there's been 90% decline. The second worrying part of the aspect is that you have a National Security Advisory Board, which was formed after Kargil, and it was headed by, it was headed by the new National Security Advisor, Mr. Brijesh Mishra, who was an IFS officer but with enough experience in security affairs and foreign affairs. Today, the country does not have a National Security Advisory Board which consists of people from the armed forces, which consists of analysts, which consists of diplomats, which consists of other things. Now, the approach that Mr. Modi has taken today, and I don't want to say anything political, you know, you are saying that Nalin was talking about being political. I don't want to be political because it's a national issue. The fact of the matter is that the 9 points that Mr. Modi has raised today essentially relate to the ISI. The fact of the matter is that this is a police type of approach. Now, what happened after Kargil? Mr. Vajpayee gave the job of finding out what went wrong to a civilian, and he gave it to a civilian analyst called Mr. K. Subramaniam, a majority of whose suggestions were accepted by the National Security Advisory Board.
But Mr. Rashmikant, with all due respect, sir, I mean, the Kargil committee report and the context in which that was made is quite different from the scenario which started over here a few days back.
Is you have the advantage today right now to see the direction in which you are going, but you do not have an institution to see how you are going to respond. It's not going to be an institution. It's not going to be an individual response.
Well, let me go across to General VP Malik, because he was somebody instrumental. No, Mr. Rashmikant, you're talking about the Kargil committee report. You're talking about the role that Mr. Subramaniam needed to have made. Well, General VP Malik was a central figure over there.
That's correct.
He's the person who led us to victory in the Kargil war.
Correct.
General Malik, let me ask you this today. Do you believe it is the lack of bodies or lack of institutions which is responsible for the situation we face today, or is it because of the politics of India and Pakistan being played out at a completely different level?
I think it's a combination of both, by the way. I did not say that. And one more point before General,
Can I make one or two short comments? Firstly, I want to tell you that I commanded the brigade.
Everybody is speaking. Let me go. General Malik, go ahead. General Malik.
Yeah, you know, let me first tell you that I commanded the brigade in RS Pura, so I know the terrain very well of that area. Secondly, Vishnu, an advice to you: when you wear a bulletproof jacket, please also wear a helmet where you are roaming around, particularly at night. Now, coming to the point that you have raised, firstly, I feel that whoever has started escalation in this area, and most probably I believe that the Pakistan military has done, targeting the civilians in this area in this manner, I think it has been rather foolishly done, because they have not thought it through. Like the Kargil war, here also they haven't thought it through. And secondly, I do believe they have not even appreciated the changed political environment in Delhi, in India. So having said that, let me also tell you that this situation is quite different to what we faced in Kargil war. Kargil war, there was no civilian habitation, not very much really, in the areas where the fighting most of the fighting took place. Here, I know for sure that there are people on either side. There is a high density of people who are living in the villages, and as you yourself have reported, that both sides are suffering. And this escalation which has been started, the targeting of the civilians, has been done very foolishly, because this is going to end up weakening the Pakistani civilian government on that side, and also having more casualties on both sides, civilian casualties on both sides of the border.
Okay, so I just wanted to go across to Air Marshal Chaudhary, because we're going to lose that line with Islamabad.
I believe...
Air Marshal, would you respond to that, sir? That, you know, at the end of the day, all that this is going to result in is more casualties on either side. And that there are two institutions in Pakistan. There is the government, the legit government, and then there is the institution of the extended army. And one may not necessarily know what the other is doing.
Yeah, you know, don't be much concerned about that. On Kashmir and on anything to do with Kashmir, the entire nation is one, including the armed forces of Pakistan. So there isn't any doubt about that. As far as the exchange of fire is concerned, if India continues to fire at the Pakistani villages, and we have dozens who have died in the last 4 or 5 days, especially during the Eid holidays, which is the most unfortunate. Even the Israelis would stop firing against the Gazans when there is a religious holiday.
India says but not India. Pakistan launched this attack on Eid.
let me just say that. Let me just finish my comment. So I think the point is that Kashmir is central to Pakistan. Kashmir is central to India and Pakistan as an issue, and that cannot be wished away. The other point that I must make is that there has been a recanting of a position which is political in India, which is in terms of the three red lines.
Kashmir is a part of India, sir. It is central to India in more ways than many in Pakistan can imagine.
Well, it's an issue.
The word Kashmir issue, sir, doesn't resonate very well with people over here who are being fired from across the border, sir.
Let me complete.
Kashmir issue, sir. Kashmir is a part of India, sir. There's no dispute in this.
There are three red lines. There are three red lines that India has identified in the last 4-5 days. One is that India will not talk to Pakistan if the LOC is active. India will not talk to Pakistan if Kashmir is internationalized or mentioned as a problem. India will not talk to Pakistan with terror as an overhang. Now these are the three red lines just a minute, that those three red lines have come from India. The Pakistani military could not have had anything to do with declaring or identifying those three red lines. So pray tell me, how is the Pakistani military involved with creating a separation in the India
I take some of the points that you've mentioned. And I want to go across to Mr. Sareen for that. Mr. Sareen, if India is not willing to talk to Pakistan at this stage, where does the process of de-escalation happen? Because is it not fair that, look, if Pakistan wants to talk towards ending the firing, towards de-escalating, India should talk as well. Mr. Sareen.
No, I don't think, I think the Air Marshal simply reads things the way he wants to without going into the details.
About the Air Marshal,
the fact of the matter remains.
Forget about
God, yeah, what's wrong with these guys? Why do they have this verbal diarrhea? Why do they keep interrupting other people? I have kept quiet all the time. This is the kind of training they get in the PMA.
I think you have
I don't know what's wrong with this guy. Yeah? No, I think you are the one. I don't know why. I've kept quiet when you were talking. Why can't you just keep quiet now? What is this kind of training you have here?
Let Mr. Sareen continue. Let Mr. Sareen continue, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Sareen.
You know, the point is I've just kept quiet when everybody else was saying certain things. So I'm just saying what I have to say. When he gets his chance, he should talk. I don't know I am not a bloody civilian from Pakistan that he can bully me, right?
Look like one, all right.
So that's the problem with these guys. Now the thing is that, you know, I don't know why we blame the civilian government in Pakistan. They have really nothing in their on their side. We keep talking about, and I think this is where the Indian side gets it wrong. We keep talking about democracy in Pakistan. Frankly, in the last 65-70 years, there has not been a single government in Pakistan which has called the shots, a civilian government which has called the shots, whether it is Kashmir, India, or any of the other so-called national security issues. So let's just keep Mr. Nawaz Sharif out of it. I think he's a bit of a puppet in this entire game. The problem is with the Pakistan army. We don't know why this whole fracas has started this time. It's been happening. It's a kind of a new normal which has come into place. There is one report that there were almost 300 odd ceasefire violations last year. That's a Hindustan Times report. So this is a kind of a new normal. This time around, however, what has started happening is that whether it is out of utter frustration, the civilians are being targeted, and this has raised this entire thing to a next level. Partly for reasons in India, political reasons, as well as the kind of ideological predilections of the government and the strong stand on national security. I think they are unlikely to back down anytime soon, and something similar is likely to play out inside Pakistan. The August ceasefire violations probably got sorted out because you were still in the flush of the sari and shawl diplomacy. So somebody picked up the phone and the DGMO mechanism kicked in and the two sides separated. I don't know how this is going to play out this time around, because inside Pakistan, I think for the Pakistan army, it will be a bit of a bind that they can't seem to be backing down. And I don't think the Indian government or the Indian public is in a mood to back down. So I really don't know how the end game of this is going to play out. But if this escalation continues, then as of now, it's limited to a small area.
In my mind, that is a dangerous reality. That people over here, and I can tell you that what you said, that people in India don't want to back down, that certainly reflects the sentiment of a lot of people who are being targeted now. But I think the larger question remains, and let me put that to General Malik. Sir, India can be belligerent and Pakistan can be belligerent, but how long does this go on? Because, on the one hand, we are not escalating the type of warfare or the type of conflict It's small arms and mortar firing, but at the same time we are not coming down on it either. And both sides are not willing to stop. So how does this actually stop?
Look, my feeling is that at the moment it is limited to 81mm mortars and 82mm mortars. You know, the escalation from there to 120mm mortars or the artillery guns, it doesn't take much time. Somebody gives a foolish order and then you will have a reaction from the other side also, and there will be more casualties. I personally feel that the fear of larger civilian casualties on either side is going to make people bend and then talk to each other. That is what I feel, whether it is the Pakistani army or Pakistani civilian government. But I think they will have to realize that this is not going to take them anywhere, and therefore it is better to start talking either at the border BOP level or at the level of the DGMOs before the political negotiations can take place.
Okay.
You know, Shahzad was mentioning about who started it. If I remember correctly, it was started on the Eid day by the Pakistan Army, this shelling of the Arnia village, which I know very well.
Yes.
And let me also mention to you that there were people going to give sweets to the other side, and they refused to accept sweets on the Eid day. I mean, that came as a surprise to me. That was the time when it could have been checked, but obviously it was not permitted to be checked by the other side.
Vishnu, can I make a point, a quick point?
Arnia, sir, incidentally, is almost a ghost town. I was there a couple of hours back. That's what the situation of Arnia is now. All the shops are closed, banks are closed, schools are closed. There was one shop, which was a pharmacy, which was open. People taking their cattle, moving away from that place. A home which was shelled, 2 people injured. One of them may not be able to hear again. That's Arnia, General Malik, for you today. It's a very, very sad story. But we're running out of time, so
Vishnu,
I just wanted to go across to Nalin for... Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to say that there's one more reason why Pakistan could be doing this is to test the will of the new government. Because after having taken a pretty strong stand and using pretty belligerent words during the elections, I think this is sizing up, and this is what China has done, the will of the new government. I would like to also tell the Pakistani Air Vice Marshal, where you talk about unity of Pakistan on the issue of Kashmir, irrespective of our internal differences within India on various ideological issues, on the issue of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the entire country is one, as you saw in Kargil, and the entire country shall remain one on this. So you cannot, please do not remain under any misconception that there shall be any division of political sorts on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. If Pakistan continues to escalate this, if it continues to escalate it, it will do nothing but pulverize itself. That's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, yeah. All right, last word to you, Nalin Kohli. You know, at some stage, one side has to be pragmatic. There are human beings dying on either side of the border. India feels that we have been wrong. We believe that we reserve the right, and we have the right to retaliate effectively and strongly. But what is the end game, sir? How do you see this playing out? Because people are dying in our country. That's a reality as well.
See, Vishnu, that of course is
sides.
The tragedy. And it's a human tragedy, wherever it is. It doesn't matter whether it's a terrorist attack, whether it is shelling, whether it is on this side of the border, the other side. A loss of a human life is a loss of a universe for that entire family, whether it's in a uniform or outside a uniform. That, of course, is the tragedy, and it's global. It's not just only on our borders. How does this play out? I think the important thing is, at the end of the day, that you can't have this kind of a déjà vu, that every time there will be an escalation, India will have to take the pragmatic view and say, okay, now let's get back and
so Nalin, this keeps going, really, because you aren't giving me a direct answer.
You can't talk.
So this is not a
so Nalin, let me ask you this. From a BJP standpoint,
I don't see this. Well, okay, let me tell you. I see, as the government has said it, and as the defense minister has said it, till there is complete peace, cannot be talks. You can't have talks under the shadow of a gun. It has to be absolutely unequivocally so that this doesn't take place. Otherwise, what's going to simply happen is that if there is adventurism, then the counter or whatever action the government takes or the armed forces take, it will raise the, it will escalate that to make it unaffordable for the Pakistani side. As simple as that. It happened. It's happened across our history on various occasions.
Vishnu, can I just
we can't be brought to the table just because Pakistan chooses to disturb peace and expect us then to talk peace.
Mr. Sareen has a point to make. Mr. Sareen, go ahead. And then Mr. Rashmikant, I'll come to you next. Mr. Sareen, go ahead.
You know, Vishnu, why things become a little difficult for India is, apart from the entire political baggage and the problems and the sentiment of the people, I think it is extremely important to look at the kind of signaling you will give if you are the guys who are seen to be backing down. Mr. Kohli was talking about the resolve of the government. I think if the Pakistanis are indeed testing it, actually they tried it in August as well, and there was a very robust response which came their way. They're trying it, if at all they're trying it again. If you are seen to be backing down time and time again because you want to be quote unquote the nice guys, I think then you will have to pay a very heavy price, very, very frequently. So I think you have to draw kind of a red line that what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. If the Pakistanis want a ceasefire, then they must adhere to the ground rules of a ceasefire. But if they're going to take pot shots at Indian soldiers or Indian civilians after every few days, that's not going to be acceptable. And then you have to, take rather strong action. Now, it's very unfortunate what is happening to the civilians, but, it's just too bad. It's a very heartless thing to say, but they're caught in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's a hard-line position, Mr. Sareen.
As of now, this is still limited.
Where you're coming from. But on the ground, people are terrorized. And I'm running out of time now, and I need to wrap up this debate. And I just want to say that in traveling across these areas, people on the ground are worried. They want their homes back. They want their lives to be back to normal. They want to go back to their fields. They want a sense of security. They want schools to open. They want banks to open. They want medical facilities to be easily available. They want their jobs. So while we can talk about a hardline position, and perhaps that's the only option available to India on the ground, this is a reality that people in the area face, and I think that cannot be ignored. I'm sure you'd agree with me. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us. I'm joined at this stage by my colleague Sudhir Ranjan Sen. Sudhir Ranjan, earlier in the program I was saying we've been unable to be in touch with each other throughout the day. You've been in another part of the greater Jammu area. What is the situation where you are?
Well, Vishnu, we were in the Samba sector all through the day, and we went to the villages like Chiliari, Chajwal, Mangukot, Kora, and this entire area. Chiliari, mind you, saw 2 civilian casualties yesterday, both women, and tragically so, they had come back from the night shelters and they were just making tea out there when one of the shells fired from across the border landed, killing them almost instantly. Today the situation is there was firing going on till about 11:30, and what we saw was deserted villages, people who had gone back, running back for cover, people trying to drag back all their cattle. So it's a very tragic story playing out on Samba, on the entire area in southwest of Jammu. Vishnu.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break at this stage, and we're going to come back with more, including Sudhir Ranjan Sen's ground reports from some of the areas where he visited today. Stay tuned.